Marna Bhosle, and I'm going to be presenting on the impact of perceived menstrual pain on affect and mood in young Indian women, along with my co-authors Malvika Prajapati and Riddhi Jain. We're students from MIT WPU studying MSc Clinical Psychology. So, to begin with, let's understand what dysmenorrhea is. It is defined as the cramp-like throbbing pain in the lower abdominal region during or before menstruation, and clinicians have classified it as primary dysmenorrhea and secondary dysmenorrhea. Primary being that there is no underlying pathology for dysmenorrhea, whereas secondary dysmenorrhea is associated with medical conditions such as endometriosis or fibroids. Globally, it affects up to 94% of women, but in India, the prevalence is disproportionately high, affecting around 88% of adolescents and young women. And this is not just the medical pain condition that occurs every month. It is beyond that, because almost 25% of women require medication, or they suffer from significant absenteeism in their social life. Moving forward, we'll look at how dysmenorrhea affects emotional well-being as well and social functioning. So firstly, we'll look at the functional impairment, how dysmenorrhea has significantly been linked to absenteeism in school and work, and has led to limited social functioning for women in society by around 37.9 and 44.6% respectively. Then we have mental health correlations. Some recent meta-analysis have shown strong positive associations between psychological distress and dysmenorrhea, and have found positive correlations with depression and anxiety. Um, so the perception factor is that the subjective uneasiness, that is, you know, how we perceive the pain, is what often limits our movement or restricts our functioning more than the physical pain itself, which is why in this study we are moving beyond clinical pain and trying to study the perception of pain and how it impacts affect and emotional well-being. So, if we talk about the Indian context, particularly in India, menstruation is shrouded in a lot of secrecy and isolation, and menstruating women are considered impure, and because of this, it leads to an inaccessibility to resources, and they have a lot of restrictions around them. And there are a lot of cultural norms which have led to the normalization of pain, and have led to the belief that menstruation is a very normal part of a woman's life. So any pain or any discomfort is not worth seeking medical attention, or it's not threatening to them. Next, we're going to look at the theoretical framework that we have incorporated in our study, which is a biopsychosocial approach. So, we understand that dysmenorrhea is an interaction between biological pain, psychological responses, and the social context. And we have used three supporting frameworks for to support our hypothesis. The first is the fear avoidance model, which states that how pain catastrophizing drives the cycle of distress. The more you think about the pain, the more you perceive the pain as threatening, it leads to increased distress and avoidance. Next, we have the pain catastrophizing model by Sullivan, which talks about how having higher negative thoughts leads to amplification of the emotional distress, the pre-existing emotional distress. Next, we have the common sense model, which is especially relevant to the Indian context, which looks at how cognitive representations of pain are non threatening due to social conditioning, despite it having a negative emotional affect.
The main research gap we noticed was that while physical prevalence of dysmenorrhea is well documented, the impact of perceived pain on emotional affect still remains explored, especially in the Indian context. So, the primary aim of our study is to examine how perceived menstrual pain intensity affects the emotional well being in terms of positive and negative affect. The core objectives of our study is to measure perceived pain intensity through the numeric rating scale and assess emotional affect via the positive and negative affect schedule, and examine the correlation between pain intensity and affect. The hypothesis tested in our study is higher perceived pain intensity will positively correlate with negative affect. Next slide, please. So this is a correlational cross-sectional study using standardized self-report measures, and there were 89 female participants aged from 18 to 25 recruited, and females who have had their menstrual cycle at least once in the last 3 months were included, and those with menstrual disorders like PCOD, endometriosis, or any chronic non-menstrual pain conditions or currently undergoing any psychiatric medications were excluded so as to not interfere with the pain ratings. And the participants were recruited through convenience sampling, that is, data was collected via digital questionnaires such as Google Forms. The tools used in this study was a numeric rating scale NRS, which is a 11-point scale where 0 means no pain and 10 means extreme pain, which measures perceived pain intensity. This test has high validity and test retest reliability. Another tool used was the positive and negative affect schedule, which is a 20-item scale with two independent dimensions: positive affect, which has factors like enthusiasm, alertness, etc., and negative affect that has factors like distress, nervousness, and irritability. This test also has strong internal consistency.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Yes. So I'm going to talk about the key findings. In this study, we analyzed data from 89 participants to understand the relationship between menstrual pain and emotional effect. So starting with the descriptive statistics, the mean pain score on the numeric rating scale was 4.3 with a standard deviation of 2.58, indicating that on average participants experienced
Sorry to
moderate.
interrupt you, ma'am. Kindly adjust your camera, ma'am. Yeah, now it's fine, ma'am.
Yeah. On average, participants experienced moderate menstrual pain. For emotional affect, the mean negative affect score was 26.70 and the mean positive affect score was 20.47. Moving to the correlational findings, we found that a statistically significant positive correlation was found between the perceived pain intensity and the negative affect, which was 0.329. This suggests that as menstrual pain increases, experiences of distress, irritability, and negative emotions also increase. However, the relationship between pain intensity and positive affect was negative, but not statistically significant. This indicates that pain does not significantly reduce positive states like enthusiasm or engagement. Therefore, our hypothesis was supported that the pain intensity significantly predicts higher negative affect. To interpret these findings, we look at underlying psychological mechanisms. The significant association between the perceived pain and negative affect can be explained using the fear avoidance model, which was mentioned previously. It suggests that when pain is perceived negatively, especially in contexts where it is stigmatized, it can lead to catastrophizing and increased emotional distress. On the other hand, the absence of a significant relationship with positive affect supports the idea that positive and negative affects are two independent dimensions as proposed in the affect theory. This means that even if distress increases, positive emotions like engagement or alertness may remain stable. One explanation for this is that in Indian context there is normalization of menstrual pain, and according to common sense model, if pain is perceived as expected and not threatening, it may not disrupt positive function. In the Indian sociocultural context, this becomes particularly important. Even though the average pain level was moderate, the menstrual pain is often normalized and not treated. Our findings show that emotional distress still increases even though pain is not acknowledged as a problem. This suggests that the psychological impact of menstrual pain may be under recognized and silently accumulating. I would pass this on to the next speaker.
Now, moving on to the biopsychosocial model. Clinically, it is necessary to recognize that dysmenorrhea has a psychological dimension that often goes undetected. Tools like PANAS help surface hidden distress that women do not usually self-report due to stigma attached. Institutionally, we need real infrastructure, rest spaces, and stigma-free counseling to sensitivity around menstrual absences, and the current ongoing debate about menstrual leave is complex because many women might not be comfortable explicitly stating menstrual reasons and may fear being labeled as unreliable. So, policy must protect dignity alongside granting leaves. Lastly, the ask is simple: to stop treating menstruation as just cramps and acknowledge the emotional burden that comes along with it.
Hello, am I audible? Yes. So now I'm going to speak about some limitations of the study, which are important to consider. First, since the design was cross-sectional, we um, we can only identify relationship between the perceived menstrual pain and negative affect, but we cannot determine causality. So we don't know if the pain leads to distress or if other factors influence both. Second, the study heavily relies on self-reported data, so there might be a possibility of recall bias as participants reported on past cycles, and also there might be a possibility of social desirability bias that people answered in the Indian context, where menstrual experiences are often stigmatized and underreported. Finally, the use of convenience sampling, mainly among students, means that the finding may not be fully generalizable to other age groups or other populations. These are some of the references that we have used. Thank you so much for listening to our presentations.